Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to work a bit more on the painting that you saw in the first video, and I'm going to talk about what it was like to make that video and what I'm learning about getting used to being seen. I'm working more on the painting that I saw in my first video, the war goddess Pallas Athene. I've now started painting layers with color. There's one layer that I didn't film where I just added black and some red. And there I added ivory black straight from the tube instead of mixing it black. And it mixed with lighter colors in a kind of blue tint that I didn't want. So I had to let that dry completely before continuing so it wouldn't make things look blue. In this session, I'm practicing mixing the different paints to create colors and gradients and mixing it with linseed oil to make it smooth. I'm not using that much solvent, only where I want to clean up mistakes or lighten what I've done. I'm still not really sure what I'm doing, but I want to just do some painting and see what happens when I mix with this much oil and if I mix these two colors together and make some mistakes and see if I can fix them. So I just want to have painted some more. And I also tried a thin mix of linseed oil and a little paint to give the face a little bit of color. I'm pretty scared of ruining the face because it sort of looks okay now the way I want it, and I want to add contrast and color, but I don't want it to become a different face. So I'm trying to be really careful here. And it's very tempting to paint the face though. It's my favorite part. I have to be a little bit disciplined to pay attention to the other parts sometimes. So that was a very interesting experience. I of course had to watch myself when editing my first video, and I was surprised by a couple of things. The first thing that surprised me was something I mentioned in my first video as well, and it's just how negative my thoughts were when I watched myself on the recording. I had a real problem with how my face looks when I speak and how I sound. I thought my face was a bit droopy on one side, and it was really hard to watch to start with. But the second thing that surprised me is how that went away very quickly as I started to see myself as just another person. I went to a third-person view of me, and it made me realize that I'd avoided that for as long as I could remember, seeing what I look like to the outside world. But it's no big deal. After just a few minutes of recoiling, I really was fine with how I looked and sounded. I was totally fine. It didn't matter. And I kind of liked the person I saw too. I thought about what it means. I think it means that I've never thought of myself as existing in the same way others do. I know this sounds odd, but looking in a mirror, you see a different person than what everyone else sees. I think maybe we edit ourselves when we look in the mirror. And the recoil at seeing ourselves and hearing ourselves on a recording is just noticing the differences between how we sound in our own heads when we talk and how we look when we look in the mirror. I think I've seen myself as the receiver of the rest of the world and someone who can elicit good or bad responses from the outside world, but not as a person who exists in the world and acts on it like everyone else. And I didn't see myself as someone who acts out something personal and unique to them. I also realized how this must mean that I simultaneously have the biggest ego and the smallest sense of self. I have a big ego because I seem to want to elicit these amazing responses from people all the time. Honestly, I don't just want approval and acceptance, I kind of want admiration. And then at the same time, I have almost no sense of self because I am just so willing to negate my own thoughts and feelings if I think I need to act differently in order for people to act pleasantly towards me. It's also quite humbling, because I could use this video to talk about things I've read and interesting quotes and people that have inspired me and make it a little bit less personal. And I think it would still make an interesting video. And I could do it because I've read a bunch, and I think I could really put something like that together. But it wouldn't be the honest truth of what's going on inside of me. And instead, I've chosen to talk about what that's like. And it is humbling because that is in no way cool. It's about something as naive as realizing that I exist in the world. I need to take up my space in the world. and how I seem to have spent an inordinate amount of time not putting any value on my own personal existence. But I like it because it's not cool, but it's honest. I get the impression that this is changing me. It's dealing with the fear and putting it in its place. If I aim to avoid being cool and I can talk and not hide behind the right response or the right opinion or the right facial expression or the right clothes, that's kind of powerful. It's like me and waves. I have attempted to surf before and it never goes very well because I get seasick, but also I get really scared when these waves approach and I think about what might happen when one pulls me under. But the funny thing is, when a wave does pull me under, I'm completely calm. I just wait until I can swim up and everything's fine. This doesn't worry me at all. So the only thing that's scary is the anticipation. So the best thing I can do for myself is have people raise their eyebrows at me. I have to be weird. And that reminds me of something I did a few years ago. I went to a shopping center and asked weird questions in shops. I went to a cosmetic store and I picked up a lipstick and I asked someone who worked there, "Can I eat this?" And I went to a shoe store and I asked if they had any shoes that would be good for walking backwards because I walked backwards a lot. And I went into a cheap jewelry shop and I got some costume jewelry, earrings, with very obviously not diamonds in them. And I asked, "Are these real diamonds?" And another time I went to the Queen Victoria building, which is a very beautiful sandstone building in Sydney. And they have a piano there that's free to play. And I can play the piano a little bit, but never without making any mistakes. And usually when I make a mistake, I stop. So I made myself play Chopin's Raindrop Prelude completely. And every time I made a mistake, just continue until it was finished. These are very scary things for me beforehand, but during it's okay, and after it feels really good. The people I've told about this, they often think I'm quite silly for doing these things, but I think it's the kind of thing I need. In the end, I think I have to make a decision about what helps me and then take my own medicine. But those challenges I set for myself, they weren't about me being me though. I don't particularly care about asking people whether I can eat lipstick. It's like the 100 Days of Rejection Challenge. You may have heard of Jia Zhang, who found 100 ways to ask for things that would likely get rejected, like asking someone if he can play football in their backyard while they film it, or asking a stranger if he could borrow $100, or asking if he could say something on the intercom at a large store. So, embarrassing odd things. And he did it because he wouldn't have been afraid of rejection anymore, because it was holding him back. So that's pretty much what I need. I'll link his book and the TED Talk in the description if you want to have a look. And it works because you gradually expose yourself to the thing you're scared of. It's called systematic desensitization. It can be used for phobias and it can be used for showing yourself to the world, which is a phobia. It's a kind of social phobia that most people have to some extent. I just seem to have it a lot. So I'm going to be doing this. I'm not going to do the same challenges that Jia Zhang did. I could and it would work, but I would like to get a little bit of myself into these challenges. And this channel is a way for me to do that. I'll leave it at this for now. In the next video, I'm going to be working on a new painting. It's not going to be a copy of another person's painting. It's going to be something I thought of myself. Thank you very much for watching and till the next one.